Baghdad International Airport, January 3rd, 2020, 1:02 a.m. A convoy of 2 vehicles exits the cargo terminal and turns onto Airport Road, 7 men inside. In the rear vehicle, 1 passenger sits behind the driver, black clothing. No bodyguards visible from the road. No military escort. No armored column. Just a man in a car, arriving at an airport at 1 in the morning, the way any ordinary traveler might. He is not an ordinary traveler. He commands 200,000 soldiers across 7 countries. He controls proxy armies in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Gaza. His own government considers him untouchable. Above him, at 15,000 feet, invisible in the Baghdad night, a U.S. Air Force MQ-9 Reaper drone has been circling for 40 minutes. Its operators are not in Iraq. They're in a trailer in Nevada, 11,000 kilometers away, watching his convoy on a screen. At 1:02 a.m., they receive a 2-word authorization from Washington. Take him. The drone fires. In the next 4 seconds, Major General Qasem Soleimani, the most powerful military commander in the Middle East, the architect of Iran's entire regional strategy, ceases to exist. The crater he leaves behind is 3 meters wide. What he leaves behind in the world is considerably larger. In the hours that follow, the United States and Iran come closer to open war than at any point since 1979, and almost nobody in Washington fully understood what they had just done. To understand why killing 1 man nearly started a war, you have to understand who that man actually was. That story begins not in Baghdad. It begins in a small village in southern Iran in 1979, the year everything changed. Qasem Soleimani was born in 1957 in a village so small it does not appear on most maps of Iran. No running water until he was a teenager. His father owed a debt to the government. Soleimani worked construction as a young man to help pay it off. He was nobody. Then 1979 arrived. The Iranian Revolution created the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, not the regular army, something different. Created specifically to protect the revolution from its enemies, open to anyone willing to fight. Soleimani joined at 22. No military background, no formal training, just a young man from a village who believed in what was happening. Then, in 1980, Iraq invaded Iran. 8 years of war, 1 million dead. Soleimani fought it from beginning to end, rising through the ranks not through conventional military thinking, but through something rarer, an instinct for networks, relationships, influence. By 1998, he was appointed head of the Quds Force. The name means Jerusalem Force. Its mission is not to defend Iran's borders. Its mission is to project Iranian power beyond them through proxy groups that Iran arms, funds, and directs while maintaining official distance. Soleimani spent 20 years building that network. In Lebanon, he transformed Hezbollah from a militia into a military force with 150,000 rockets pointed at Israel, more than most European armies. In Iraq, after the American invasion of 2003 eliminated Iran's most dangerous neighbor, Soleimani moved into the power vacuum immediately. He funded Shia militias that spent years killing American soldiers, while simultaneously cultivating the Iraqi government that Washington thought was its own ally. He was playing both sides of the same table. By 2019, his network spanned 7 countries and 200,000 fighters. He was not a terrorist. He was a strategist, a nation-state military commander operating without the constraints of a nation-state. And he moved through the Middle East completely in the open, photographed on front lines, attending funerals, posting on Instagram, the confidence of a man who believed he was untouchable. The question Washington had debated for 15 years was whether he was right. By 2019, Washington and Tehran had been locked in escalation for 18 months. Trump had pulled the United States from the Iran nuclear deal. Sanctions collapsed Iran's oil exports by 70%. The currency lost half its value. The economy contracted. Tehran's response was not diplomatic. It was operational. June 2019, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway carrying 20% of the world's oil supply. 2 tankers attacked in international waters. Limpet mines attached below the waterline. Precision placement. Professional execution. Iran denied it. Nobody believed them. July 2019. Iran shot down a U.S. Navy surveillance drone. $120 million. Gone in a single missile strike. Trump authorized retaliatory strikes on Iranian radar installations. Aircraft were airborne. Pilots had their targets. 10 minutes before impact, he called them back. He later said the projected death toll, 150 Iranians, bothered him. Tehran read that decision carefully. The Americans will come to the edge. They will not cross it. That calculation would prove costly. Through the second half of 2019, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq fired rockets at American bases 35 times in 2 months. Each attack calibrated just below the threshold that would force a direct response. Then on December 27th, the calibration failed. One rocket from a 31 rocket barrage hit K-1 military base in Kirkuk. At the exact moment, a group of personnel were standing nearby. Nawriz Hamid, an American contractor from California, was killed. Washington struck back. 25 militia fighters killed across 5 locations in Iraq and Syria. Then, 3 days later, militia fighters stormed the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, breached the perimeter, tore down the American flag. The images went global. Soleimani was in Baghdad, photographed with the militia commanders, present, visible, untouchable as ever. In Washington, his name moved to the top of a list it had been on before. This time, nobody set it aside. January 2nd, 2020, Soleimani boards a commercial flight from Damascus to Baghdad, scheduled service. His own name on the manifest, no covert routing, no disguise. The flight lands at 11:59 p.m. By 12:30 a.m., a targeting package is on the desk of senior American decision-makers in Washington. The legal framework is the 2002 Authorization for Use of Military Force. The intelligence assessment: Soleimani is planning imminent attacks on American personnel across multiple countries. The authorization is granted. 2 words: take him. The MQ-9 Reaper has been circling Baghdad at 15,000 feet for 40 minutes, invisible, silent from the ground. Its operators are in Nevada, 11,000 kilometers away, watching a thermal feed on a screen. 2 vehicles exit the cargo terminal at 1:02 a.m. The crosshairs follow. The Hellfire missile weighs 49 kilograms, detonates on impact. Fragmentation pattern calculated to destroy everything within a defined radius. At 1:02 a.m. and 47 seconds, it is released. 4 seconds from launch to impact. The vehicles do not stop, do not accelerate, do not turn. They have no idea. Both vehicles destroyed. The thermal feed shows 2 expanding circles of white heat on a dark road. Then nothing moves. Investigators recover his identification from the debris field, 40 meters from the point of impact. A ring, red gemstone, right hand. Iran formally identifies him by it. In Tehran, the supreme leader weeps on camera and announces 3 days of national mourning. The funeral draws 17 million people into the streets. And in that grief, cold and precise, a decision is already being made. Iran will respond. Iran's response had to accomplish 3 things simultaneously, large enough to satisfy its public, painful enough to demonstrate that killing Soleimani carried a real cost, and precisely calibrated to avoid killing Americans, because dead Americans would remove every constraint on what Washington did next. Iraq was warned. Iraq told the United States. The Americans had hours to get into bunkers. January 8th, 2020, 1:45 a.m. 16 ballistic missiles launched from western Iran toward Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. Flight time, 7 minutes. The base is struck 11 times. Hangars destroyed. Runways cratered. Buildings collapsed. The images broadcast on Iranian state television show real destruction. And then the world waits for one number: American fatalities. 1 hour after the strike, 0. 2 hours, 0. By dawn, 0. 110 Americans are later diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries from blast concussions. The Pentagon initially calls them headaches, but the number that matters to both governments that morning is 0. President Trump announces additional sanctions. He does not announce military retaliation. The war does not come. Whether Iran deliberately avoided killing Americans, a calculated act of restraint that prevented a war, or whether the zero death toll came down to warning time, bunkers, and fortune that nobody planned for. That question has never been definitively answered. History does not always turn on the decisions of great men. Sometimes it turns on whether a missile's guidance system holds its calibration over 400 kilometers of desert. The United States killed Soleimani to stop what he was building. 6 years later, measure what actually stopped. Hezbollah expanded its missile arsenal to 150,000 rockets. The Houthis kept firing. Iraqi militias kept attacking American personnel. Iran's nuclear program accelerated. By 2023, uranium enriched to 83%, weapons grade 90%, a technical step away. His successor lacked his relationships, his authority, his instinct. The network's coordination fractured. Decisions that took Soleimani an afternoon now took weeks. The machine had lost its engineer. The machine kept running because Soleimani had spent 20 years ensuring each node could function independently. He had built a system that did not require him to survive. He knew that one day someone would try to remove him from the equation, and he had planned for it. What died with him was not the network. What died was the constraint he represented, his personal judgment about how far to push, when to escalate, and when to hold back. The calibration of a man who had been operating in this space for 30 years and understood its limits. His successors are less experienced, less certain. Uncertainty in a proxy war is not stability. In February 2026, the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran that killed the supreme leader himself. The war that January 2020 nearly started had arrived 6 years later at a scale nobody had planned for. The Americans killed the architect. They could not kill the architecture.